Admiral Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of the stealth cruiser Nightfall, watching the stars through the main screen. Another colony ship had just disappeared into the darkness, carrying 5,000 humans to a new world that no alien would ever find. The ship looked like an old cargo vessel from the outside, but inside it held the most advanced technology humanity had ever built. Jake remembered the day everything changed 50 years ago when Commander Lisa Park came back from a routine patrol mission with news that shook the entire human government. She had found something incredible and terrifying at the same time. The aliens were watching Earth, and they had been doing it for decades without humans knowing about it. Lisa had discovered a network of hidden sensors placed around the solar system by creatures from other worlds. These devices were so small and well hidden that human technology almost missed them completely. The sensors were recording everything humans did in space and sending the information back to alien civilizations across the galaxy. When the government learned about this discovery, they faced a choice that would change humanity forever. They could either confront the aliens and demand answers, or they could use this knowledge to their advantage. The leaders chose the second option and began the greatest deception in human history. Captain Ben Turner was one of the first people chosen to lead this secret plan. His job was to make sure the aliens saw exactly what humans wanted them to see. Every space mission that the aliens could observe was carefully planned to look primitive and often unsuccessful. Rockets would explode on purpose. Space stations would have fake problems. Exploration missions would turn back early, claiming equipment failures. But while the aliens watched these staged failures, the real human space program was growing in complete secrecy. Dr. Helen Cross had developed new engine technology that could move ships faster than anything the aliens had. The quantum drive system could push a vessel across vast distances in days instead of years. The breakthrough came when Helen discovered how to bend space around a ship instead of just pushing through it. The aliens had never seen this kind of technology, and their sensors could not detect ships using the quantum drive. This gave humans the ability to travel anywhere in the galaxy without being noticed. Jake had been there when the first secret colony ship left Earth. The HFY mission was so dangerous that nobody knew if the colonists would survive or if they would ever be able to contact home again. But 3 months later, a message came back, confirming that New Geneva had been established successfully on a planet 200 light-years from Earth. The world the colonists had chosen was one that alien surveys had marked as completely useless. The atmosphere was too thick, they said. The gravity was too strong. The radiation levels were too high. But human technology had found ways to deal with all these problems, and the planet was actually perfect for what humanity needed. New Geneva became the first of many hidden worlds. Each colony was placed on planets that aliens considered worthless or impossible to live on. Worlds with dangerous weather became homes for underground cities. Planets with toxic air were perfect for humans using sealed habitats. Rocky worlds with no atmosphere were ideal for mining operations. Captain Turner oversaw the growth of the colonial program as it expanded beyond anyone's original dreams. Within 20 years, humans had established 50 colonies across 8 star systems. Within 30 years, there were 150 worlds under human control. By the time Jake became an admiral, there were over 300 human colonies scattered across 12 different star systems. The aliens never suspected anything, because humans were very careful about how they hid their expansion. Every colonial expedition looked like a failed deep space exploration mission to the alien sensors. Ships would launch from Earth heading in one direction, then use the quantum drive to change course. Once they were far enough away to avoid detection, Dr. Cross had also perfected another piece of technology that gave humans a huge advantage over the aliens. The neural link system allowed human pilots to connect their minds directly to their spacecraft. This meant that human ships could react faster and move in ways that alien pilots could never match. The neural link was Helen's most secret project. Only a few hundred humans had been trained to use the system, and they were sworn to never reveal its existence. These pilots could think their ships through complex maneuvers that would be impossible using normal controls. They could feel what their ship felt and respond to threats before computers could even detect them. Jake had been one of the first neural link pilots, and he remembered the incredible feeling of becoming one with his ship. The boundary between his body and the spacecraft disappeared, and he could move through space like he was swimming through water. No alien pilot could match the skill and speed of a human neural link operator. But the deception went far beyond just hiding colonies and advanced technology. Human merchant ships that traded with alien civilizations were actually military vessels in disguise. Every human trade delegation included intelligence officers who mapped alien defenses and studied their technology. Every diplomatic meeting was an opportunity to gather information about alien military capabilities. The Galactic Council that governed most alien civilizations had no idea that humans were playing such a complex game. The council was led by species like the proud Zilani, who believed they were the greatest warriors in the galaxy, and the ancient Corveth, who thought their technology was beyond improvement. To the aliens, humans were still a primitive species barely capable of reaching beyond their own solar system. They saw human ships as slow and clumsy. They believed human weapons were weak and outdated. They thought human intelligence was limited compared to their own advanced minds. This misunderstanding was exactly what humanity wanted. While the aliens ignored Earth as unimportant, humans were building an empire that would soon rival the combined territories of all alien civilizations. Hidden factories on distant worlds were producing advanced weapons and ships. Secret research stations were developing new technologies that would surprise everyone. Jake looked at the star charts showing the real extent of human expansion and smiled. 307 colonies, 40 manufacturing worlds, 12 major shipyards, a fleet of 8,000 vessels ranging from small scouts to massive battleships, all of it hidden from alien eyes by careful planning and superior technology. But Jake's smile faded as he read the latest intelligence report from Commander Ryan Hayes. Ryan's deep space reconnaissance ship had picked up something disturbing at the edge of known space. Strange signals were coming from the dark regions beyond the galaxy, where no civilization had ever traveled. The signals were unlike anything in the alien databases. They seemed to be some kind of communication, but the pattern was wrong. Whatever was sending these messages was not like any known species. As Jake read the report, he felt a chill run down his spine. Something was coming. Something vast and unknown was moving toward their galaxy, and none of the alien civilizations had any idea what they were about to face. The first reports came in at 3 in the morning. General Patricia Wells was sleeping in her quarters on New Geneva when the emergency alarm woke her up. The communications officer was calling from the command center with news that would change everything. Ships had appeared at the edge of the galaxy, and they were not from any known civilization. Patricia rushed to the command center where dozens of officers were working frantically at their stations. The main screen showed sensor readings from the outer monitoring posts that humans had placed beyond alien space. Massive objects were moving through the darkness between stars, and they were heading straight for the populated regions of the galaxy. Captain Steve Mitchell was commanding the reconnaissance ship Shadowhawk when the first contact happened. His ship was on patrol near the border of Zilani space when something huge appeared on his sensors. The object was larger than anything Steve had ever seen. It was bigger than a space station and moving faster than any ship should be able to travel. Steve tried to contact the unknown vessel but got no response. The ship continued moving toward the Zilani homeworld without slowing down or changing course. Steve followed at a safe distance while sending reports back to human command. What he saw next would haunt him for the rest of his life. The alien ship was not like anything in the galactic databases. It looked like it was grown instead of built, with organic curves and metallic surfaces that seemed to shift and change as Steve watched. Strange lights pulsed along its hull in patterns that hurt to look at. The ship was alive in some way that made no sense to human understanding. When the ship reached the Zilani homeworld, it did not try to communicate or negotiate. It simply began attacking with weapons that seemed to tear holes in space itself. The proud Zilani defense fleet launched to protect their world, but their ships were destroyed before they could even fire back. Steve watched in horror as the Zilani homeworld burned. Cities that had stood for thousands of years were reduced to ash in minutes. The planet's surface cracked and split as if the world itself was dying. Billions of Zilani civilians had no chance to escape as their civilization was wiped out in a single day. The same thing was happening across the galaxy. The ancient Corveth fleets that had never lost a battle were scattered like leaves in a storm. Their massive warships that could destroy entire planets were torn apart by weapons that defied all known physics. Species that had ruled star systems for millions of years were extinct before they understood what was attacking them. Dr. Amy Foster was working in her laboratory on the research station Hidden Valley when the first alien refugees began arriving. These were survivors from the attacks, and their stories were all the same. Ships had appeared without warning. The attackers showed no interest in surrender or negotiation. They simply destroyed everything and then moved on to the next target. Amy began studying the few pieces of wreckage that survivors had managed to bring with them. What she found made her sick with fear. The attacking ships were not just weapons of war. They were harvesting machines designed to consume entire civilizations and add their knowledge to some kind of collective mind. The creatures inside the ships were unlike anything in the galactic records. They appeared to be a fusion of organic life and advanced technology. Their bodies were part flesh and part machine, with neural interfaces that connected them directly to their ships. They thought and acted as one mind spread across thousands of individual bodies. But the most terrifying discovery came when Amy analyzed the genetic material from the attackers. The samples showed traces of DNA from dozens of different species. These creatures had not just conquered other civilizations. They had absorbed them completely and made their knowledge part of their own collective consciousness. Amy realized that these attackers had been doing this for millions of years. Every species they conquered made them stronger and smarter. They were carrying the accumulated knowledge and technology of 1,000 dead civilizations. No wonder they were so powerful. They had learned from every race they had ever encountered. The aliens called them the Outsiders because they came from beyond the known galaxy. Nobody knew where they originally came from or how long they had been traveling through space, consuming other civilizations. What everyone knew was that they were unstoppable, and they were heading for the core worlds where billions, more lives waited to be harvested. Patricia studied the tactical reports from the battles and felt despair growing in her heart. The Outsiders had weapons that could tear apart space itself. Their ships could regenerate damage instantly. Their collective consciousness allowed them to coordinate attacks across multiple star systems at the same time. How could anyone fight an enemy like this? The Galactic Council was in complete chaos. Chancellor Vextai of the Corveth was broadcasting desperate calls for help to anyone who would listen. The Zelani military commander, General Carthon, was trying to organize a defense with the few ships that had survived the initial attacks. But everyone knew it was hopeless. President Laura Stone sat in her office on Earth reading the intelligence reports and facing the most difficult decision in human history. Humanity had the technology to fight the Outsiders. Their neural link pilots and quantum drive ships might be able to match the enemy's advanced capabilities. But revealing humanity's true strength would expose Earth to attack from both the Outsiders and the surviving alien civilizations. For 50 years, humans had worked to stay hidden and safe. Now that safety might be the only thing that could save the galaxy. Laura knew that once humanity revealed their empire, there would be no going back. Earth would become a target, and humans would be forced to fight a war they never wanted. Colonel Derek Ross was commanding a stealth frigate near the ruins of a Corveth colony when he saw his chance to test human weapons against the Outsiders. An enemy harvesting ship was still in the system, processing the remains of the destroyed world. Derek decided to attack, even though his orders were to observe and report only. The neural disruptor bombs that Dr. Cross had developed worked better than anyone had hoped. When Derek's ship fired the weapons at the Outsider vessel, something amazing happened. The collective consciousness that controlled the ship began to break apart. The absorbed minds of conquered species started fighting each other inside the alien network. For the first time since the attacks began, an Outsider ship was damaged and forced to retreat. Derek's successful strike proved that human technology could hurt these seemingly invincible enemies. The secret war had begun, and humanity finally had a weapon that could fight back. But Derek also knew that his attack had revealed humanity's presence to the Outsiders. Soon they would come looking for the species that had dared to fight them. The galaxy was about to learn the truth about human capabilities, whether humanity was ready or not. Lieutenant Commander Kelly James pushed her stealth fighter through the wreckage of what used to be the greatest fleet in the galaxy. The Corveth Defense Armada had been the pride of their civilization for 10,000 years, but now it was nothing but twisted metal floating in space. Her ship's adaptive hull changed color and texture to match the debris around her, making her invisible to any watching eyes. Kelly was deep in enemy territory on a mission that could change the course of the war. Intelligence reports showed that 3 Outsider harvesting ships were still in the system, processing the remains of the Corveth homeworld. These massive vessels were extracting something from the planet's surface, and Kelly needed to find out what it was. Her fighter was equipped with the latest human technology, including quantum sensors that could penetrate outsider shielding. As she moved closer to the planet, Kelly began recording everything she saw. The harvesting ships were not just taking resources from the dead world. They were somehow extracting the memories and knowledge of the entire Corvette civilization. Admiral Morrison was coordinating the Shadow War from his command ship Nightfall, which never stayed in the same location for more than a few hours. Human forces were striking at outsider targets across the galaxy, using hit-and-run tactics that the aliens had never encountered before. Ships would appear inside enemy formations using quantum tunnel drives, then vanish before the outsiders could respond. The key to human success was unpredictability. Outsider strategy was based on the accumulated knowledge of 1,000 conquered civilizations, but none of those species had ever fought the way humans did. Traditional military doctrine called for organized fleets and planned battles, but humans attacked, like ghosts striking without warning and disappearing into the darkness. Morrison studied the battle reports with growing satisfaction. Human pilots were adapting to combat faster than the outsiders could learn to counter them. The neural link technology gave human fighters reflexes that seemed impossible to alien minds. A human pilot could dodge weapons fire that computer targeting systems said should be unavoidable. Dr. Helen Cross was working around the clock in her laboratory trying to understand how outsider consciousness worked. The breakthrough came when she realized that their collective mind was not as unified as it appeared. The absorbed personalities of conquered species created conflicts within the alien network. Different civilizations had different ways of thinking, and these differences caused problems in the outsider decision-making process. Helen developed a new weapon based on this discovery. The neural disruptor bombs could trigger massive psychological conflicts inside outsider ships by amplifying the differences between absorbed minds. When the weapon hit an enemy vessel, the collective consciousness would begin fighting itself as different species tried to take control of the shared network. Engineer Carl Bennett was responsible for mass-producing the neural disruptors at the hidden factories scattered across human space. The weapons were complex and required rare materials that could only be found on certain worlds, but Carl had solved the production problems by setting up automated mining operations on planets that aliens considered worthless. The neural disruptors were proving incredibly effective against outsider fleets. Ships that had seemed invincible were now destroying themselves as their crews lost control of their shared consciousness. Some outsider vessels would attack their own allies when the disruptors triggered conflicts between different absorbed species. Captain Ben Turner was overseeing the transformation of human industrial capacity from its peacetime configuration to full war production. The hidden factories that had spent decades disguised as simple mining operations were now revealing their true purpose. Automated assembly lines were churning out advanced warships faster than any alien civilization had thought possible. The Zilani survivors were shocked when they discovered that human cargo vessels could transform into heavy cruisers within minutes. Ships that had appeared to be simple transport craft suddenly unfolded hidden weapon systems and armor plating. The deception had been so complete that even species with advanced sensors had never suspected the truth. Turner's shipyards were also producing hybrid vessels that combined human and alien technology. Zilani energy shields were integrated with human stealth systems to create ships that were invisible until they opened fire. Corvette structural engineering was combined with human quantum drives to build vessels that could survive direct hits from outsider weapons. The surviving members of the Galactic Council were beginning to ask difficult questions about human capabilities. Chancellor Vex Tai had survived the destruction of his homeworld and was now leading the Corvette resistance from a hidden base in an asteroid field. He could not understand how primitive humans were achieving victories that his advanced military had failed to accomplish. Vex Tai began investigating human activities, and what he found disturbed him greatly. Human ships were appearing in star systems that should have taken months to reach. Human weapons were using technology that did not exist in any alien database. Human pilots were performing maneuvers that should have been impossible without killing the crew from acceleration forces. The truth was becoming harder to hide as human forces expanded their operations. Major Rachel Stone led a rescue mission to save the last Zilani research station from an outsider attack. Her assault team used quantum tunnel drives to appear inside the enemy formation, then deployed neural disruptors to disable the attacking ships before extracting the alien scientists. The rescue was successful, but it revealed the full extent of human military technology to the surviving Zilani researchers. They had seen human soldiers appear from nowhere wearing armor that was more advanced than anything in Zilani arsenals. They had witnessed human ships move in ways that violated known physics. They had watched human weapons destroy outsider vessels that Zilani forces could not even damage. Dr. Amy Foster was working with the rescued Zilani scientists to analyze captured outsider technology when she made another disturbing discovery. The outsiders were not random destroyers moving through the galaxy without purpose. They were following a specific pattern and targeting civilizations based on their level of technological development. The most advanced species were being harvested first because their knowledge was more valuable to the outsider collective. Humanity's apparent primitiveness had kept them off the target list, but that protection would not last much longer. Once the outsiders finished harvesting the major civilizations, they would begin looking for smaller prey. Amy realized that time was running out. The outsiders had consumed the knowledge of the Corvith and Zilani, along with dozens of other advanced species. Every victory made them smarter and more dangerous. Soon, they would have absorbed enough collective intelligence to see through humanity's deception and discover the truth about human capabilities. The Shadow War had been successful so far, but Kelly James knew it could not continue indefinitely. Her latest reconnaissance mission had detected something terrifying on the edge of outsider space. Massive construction facilities were building something enormous in the darkness between stars. Whatever the outsiders were preparing, it was larger than anything they had used before. The secret phase of the war was ending, and soon humanity would have to reveal their true strength to the galaxy or watch everything burn in the fires of outsider conquest. The emergency session of the Galactic Council was unlike anything in the organization's 10,000-year history. Chancellor Vextai stood before the assembled representatives of surviving civilizations, holding evidence that would shatter everything they thought they knew about the galaxy. In his hands were detailed scans of human technology that proved beyond doubt that humanity had been lying about their capabilities for decades. Admiral Patricia Wells received the summons to appear before the council with mixed feelings. The time for secrecy had finally ended, but she was not sure the surviving aliens would accept the truth or if they would try to destroy humanity out of anger and fear. She prepared her presentation carefully, knowing that the next few hours would determine whether humans would be seen as saviors or as another threat to galactic peace. The council chamber on the neutral station Haven's Rest was filled with tension when Patricia arrived. Representatives from 17 different species sat in shocked silence as she activated the holographic display that would reveal the true extent of human expansion. The first image showed a star map with red dots marking every human colony, and the aliens gasped as hundreds of dots appeared across 12 star systems. Patricia began her presentation with the simple truth that humanity had discovered alien surveillance networks 50 years ago and had chosen deception over confrontation. She explained how humans had deliberately staged failed missions while secretly developing quantum drive technology and establishing colonies on worlds that aliens considered uninhabitable. The Zilani representative, General Carthon, interrupted with accusations of betrayal and demanded to know why humans had hidden their strength while alien worlds burned. Patricia calmly explained that revealing human capabilities earlier would have made Earth a target for both alien governments and the outsiders who were already moving toward the galaxy. The scale of human deception became clear as Patricia revealed the numbers. 307 colonies across 12 star systems, 46 major industrial complexes producing advanced technology, 12 shipyards capable of building vessels that surpassed anything in alien fleets, a total population of over 8 billion humans scattered across the galaxy in hidden settlements. Commander Derek Ross demonstrated the effectiveness of human weapons by showing recordings of neural disruptors turning outsider fleets against themselves. The aliens watched in amazement as ships that had seemed invincible began destroying each other when their collective consciousness was disrupted by human technology. The demonstration continued with footage of human stealth fighters moving through outsider formations like ghosts striking without warning and vanishing before retaliation could arrive. Neural link pilots performed maneuvers that should have been impossible while their ships bent space around them using quantum drive systems that alien science had never imagined. Dr. Amy Foster presented her research on outsider biology and psychology, showing how the collective consciousness could be disrupted by triggering conflicts between absorbed species. The aliens finally understood why their conventional weapons had been useless, while human neural disruptors could cripple entire enemy fleets. Captain Carl Bennett revealed the true nature of human industrial capacity by showing how disguised mining operations could transform into weapons factories within hours. The aliens had been trading with what they thought were primitive cargo vessels that were actually mobile production facilities capable of building advanced military equipment. The revelation that human merchant ships were disguised warships sent shockwaves through the alien representatives. For decades, they had allowed these vessels into their most secure systems, never suspecting that every human trader was also a military reconnaissance operative, mapping their defenses and studying their technology. Chancellor Vextai demanded reparations for the deception and accused humanity of preparing to conquer the galaxy just like the outsiders. Other alien representatives agreed that humans could not be trusted after hiding their true strength for so long. The council chamber erupted in angry voices as different species argued about how to respond to this revelation. Patricia waited for the shouting to die down before activating another holographic display. This one showed long-range sensor readings from the edge of known space where something massive was approaching. The outsiders were building world-sized harvest vessels that would dwarf anything seen before, and they were heading straight for the remaining populated systems. The argument stopped as the aliens realized the true scope of the threat they were facing. The massive constructs approaching from dark space were not just ships, but mobile civilizations carrying the absorbed essence of every species the outsiders had ever conquered. Traditional weapons would be useless against enemies of this magnitude. Dr. Helen Cross explained how human neural link technology could be adapted to work with alien pilots, allowing them to interface directly with their spacecraft. The combination of human intuition and alien knowledge would create pilots capable of matching outsider collective consciousness in battle. The hybrid vessel program was revealed next, showing how human stealth systems could be combined with Zilani energy matrices and Corveth structural engineering. These new ships would be invisible to outsider sensors until they opened fire with weapons that could penetrate any known defense. President Laura Stone addressed the council directly from Earth, explaining that humanity had never intended to conquer anyone, but had simply been trying to survive in a dangerous galaxy. The deception had been necessary to protect Earth, while humans learned about the larger universe and developed the technology needed to defend themselves. The political situation became more complex as some species demanded immediate access to human technology while others wanted guarantees that humans would not use their advanced capabilities to dominate the galaxy after the outsider threat was eliminated. Negotiations continued for hours as different factions argued about the terms of cooperation. The breakthrough came when the Corveth elder scientist Zartoth offered to share the complete Corveth technology database with human researchers in exchange for access to quantum drive systems and neural link interfaces. Other species quickly followed with similar offers as they realized that cooperation was their only chance for survival. Admiral Morrison coordinated the integration of human and alien forces from his command ship while engineers worked around the clock to retrofit alien vessels with human technology. The process was complicated by differences in alien biology and engineering, but progress was faster than anyone had expected. The first hybrid warships rolled out of the combined production facilities within weeks of the treaty signing. These vessels incorporated the best features of every surviving civilization, creating ships that were more powerful than anything any single species could have built alone. But time was running short as deep space monitors detected the approaching outsider armada. The massive harvest vessels were still months away, but their scout ships were already probing the outer systems, looking for signs of organized resistance. The final battle for the galaxy was about to begin, and everyone knew that failure would mean the extinction of every remaining civilization. The empire that humanity had built in secret was now the foundation for the largest military alliance in galactic history, but whether it would be enough to stop the Outsiders remained to be seen. The final battle for the galaxy began at Titan's Edge, where humanity's outermost military installation stood guard against the approaching darkness. Admiral Jake Morrison commanded the largest fleet ever assembled, with ships from every surviving civilization working together, despite decades of mistrust and hidden resentments. The approaching Outsider armada was visible on long-range sensors as a wall of darkness that stretched across entire star systems. Captain Kelly James stood on the bridge of the experimental vessel Prometheus, Prime, watching the enemy fleet approach through the main display. The hybrid ship combined human stealth technology with Zilani energy systems and Corveth structural engineering, creating something that had never existed before. Her crew included humans, aliens, and even some artificial intelligences working together with a unity that would have been impossible just months earlier. The Outsider harvest vessels were unlike anything seen in the previous battles. These massive constructs were not just ships but mobile worlds carrying the stored consciousness of entire civilizations. Each vessel contained the knowledge and memories of billions of beings that had been absorbed during the Outsider expansion across multiple galaxies. Dr. Helen cross-monitored the neural network connections from her command center on New Geneva as volunteers from every surviving species joined the experimental collective consciousness. The project was dangerous because linking so many different minds together could cause permanent psychological damage, but it was the only way to match the Outsider mental processing power. Commander Ben Turner had volunteered to be the central node for the Allied consciousness network, despite knowing that the strain might kill him. His mind became the bridge between human intuition and alien logic, allowing different species to share thoughts and coordinate actions in ways that had never been attempted before. The battle opened with a massive exchange of fire that lit up the darkness between stars. Outsider weapons tore holes in space itself, while Allied forces responded with neural disruptors and quantum torpedoes. Ships vanished and reappeared using dimensional tunneling, while others bent reality around them with gravity manipulation systems. Kelly pushed Prometheus Prime through the enemy formation using evasive maneuvers that combined human unpredictability with alien precision. The hybrid ship's weapons systems fired in patterns that confused Outsider targeting computers because they had never encountered technology that worked in such ways. The Outsider collective consciousness proved more adaptable than expected. When neural disruptors hit their ships, the absorbed personalities would quickly reorganize themselves to limit the damage. Different civilizations within the collective began working together instead of fighting each other as they learned to cooperate against the Allied forces. Engineer Carl Bennett's manufacturing stations were producing replacement ships and weapons even during the battle itself. Mobile factories moved through the combat zone using quantum drives to stay ahead of enemy fire, while their automated systems built new vessels to replace those that had been destroyed. The tide of battle shifted when the Allied Consciousness Network achieved full connection. Turner's mind became a focal point that allowed human pilots to share reflexes with Zilani energy specialists and Corveth tactical analysts. For the first time in galactic history, different species were truly thinking as one while maintaining their individual personalities. The networked consciousness discovered something unexpected about the Outsiders during the mental contact. The collective was not evil in the way everyone had assumed. The absorbed civilizations were still alive within the network, and many of them wanted to be free from the forced connection that had trapped them for millions of years. Dr. Amy Foster analyzed the psychological patterns she was detecting from the enemy fleet and realized that the Outsiders were not conquerors by choice. They were the last survivors of an ancient civilization that had achieved galactic dominance, then found themselves completely alone in the universe. The absorption of other species was their desperate attempt to find companionship in a cosmos that had become empty and cold. This revelation changed everything about the battle strategy. Instead of trying to destroy the Outsider fleet, the Allied forces began attempting communication with the absorbed civilizations trapped within the collective consciousness. The neural link network that connected Allied minds was expanded to reach out to the enemy ships. The first successful contact came when a Corveth consciousness specialist managed to speak directly with an absorbed civilization that had been part of the Outsider collective for over 1,000,000 years. The ancient species confirmed that they and thousands of others were prisoners within the network, desperate for freedom, but unable to break free from the collective. Control Turner felt his mind stretching to its limits as he became the communication bridge between the Allied consciousness and the trapped civilizations within the outsider fleet. The strain was enormous, but he held the connection while negotiators from both sides worked to find a solution that would end the war without destroying anyone. The breakthrough came when the oldest absorbed civilization within the outsider collective offered to help free the others if the allies would accept the outsiders as partners rather than enemies. They explained that the original outsider species had been trying to find companionship for so long that they had forgotten there might be other ways to connect with different civilizations. The negotiation that followed was unlike anything in galactic history. Representatives from the Allied consciousness spoke directly with absorbed civilizations that had been extinct for millions of years, while the original outsider species listened to possibilities they had never considered. The war ended not with conquest or destruction, but with the most complex integration ever attempted. The outsider collective consciousness was carefully separated into its component parts, allowing absorbed civilizations to choose whether they wanted to remain connected or exist independently. Many of the ancient species chose to become part of the new galactic community, while others decided to explore the universe as individual civilizations again. The original outsiders were amazed to discover that they could have companionship without forced absorption and eagerly joined the expanded alliance. Admiral Patricia Wells stood in the council chamber of the new Galactic Federation, watching representatives from over 200 different civilizations work together on problems that affected everyone. Humans were no longer hidden or underestimated, but were recognized as the species that had made this unity possible. The galaxy had been transformed by the war and its unexpected resolution. Technology was being shared freely between civilizations, creating advances that no single species could have achieved alone. The quantum drive systems that humans had developed in secret were now being used by everyone to explore regions of space that had been unreachable before. Kelly looked out at the stars from the bridge of her ship, knowing that humanity had found its place in the universe not through conquest or deception, but by showing other civilizations that cooperation was stronger than any weapon. The empire that had been built in secret had become the foundation for something greater than anyone had imagined. The greatest victory was not defeating the outsiders, but proving that even the most ancient conflicts could be resolved through understanding and compassion. Humanity's refusal to give up hope had saved not just the galaxy, but had rescued civilizations that had been lost for millions of years. The stars were no longer divided by fear and suspicion, but connected by the shared knowledge that every species had something valuable to contribute to the greater community. The age of hidden empires was over, and the era of true galactic civilization had finally begun.